My name is Lauren Sankey, and I'm a comms advisor for Fisheries and Oceans. I'll be moderating today's press conference. Je m'appelle Lauren Sankey et je vais modérer la conférence de presse. And I have a colleague on Zoom who will also be moderating. J'ai un collègue sur Zoom qui va modérer aussi. We'll turn it over to you, Minister Thompson.
Good afternoon. Bonjour. Unasukat. I want to begin by acknowledging the wildfires that are burning across many parts of Canada, including in my home province of Newfoundland and Labrador. These fires are causing immense hardship for many people and communities, and my heart goes out to everyone who's been impacted. My sincere thanks to all the first responders, including members of Canada's Coast Guard, and the countless volunteers who have worked around the clock to extinguish the fires, coordinate shelters, mobilize emergency services, and who are holding communities together amid this time of heightened fear, anxiety, and uncertainty. I also want to thank Minister David Akeeagok and the Government of Nunavut for hosting this annual gathering of the Canadian Council of Fisheries and Aquaculture Ministers. Nunavut is a fitting location to hold a meeting of this nature because it embodies the principles that guide this government, the territory, and its people, like respect for others, care for people and the environment, openness, welcome, and inclusion, decisions made through discussion and consensus, innovation and resourcefulness, and working together for a common cause. This past week, I have had the privilege of spending time in the north, starting in Yellowknife, traveling through Hay River, Nunavut, Rankin Inlet, and now here in Iqaluit. Each community has underscored the importance of our fisheries to people's livelihoods, cultures, and economies. These are places where sustainable management of marine resources goes hand in hand with supporting the vibrant rural and coastal communities that sustain our fisheries. That perspective guided my discussion here over the past 2 days. I met with my provincial and territorial counterparts, and together we shared views on the opportunities and challenges facing Canada's fisheries and aquaculture sectors. This was also the case during our meetings with national Indigenous leaders who continue to play a key role in the co-management of Canada's marine and freshwater resources. We discussed several cross-jurisdictional issues, including how we can work together to grow Canada's fish and seafood sectors. We spoke about the opportunities of the new Building Canada Act and how it can help build one Canadian economy that is moving faster on major projects, working closely at developmental impacts, cutting red tape, opening more markets, improving funding, lowering trade barriers, and working together on tariffs and strengthening our trade and fishery treaties with the U.S. We also had a very good conversation about how we can sustainably grow and develop aquaculture within our various jurisdictions. By sharing best practices, upholding environmental standards, and investing in innovative technologies, I believe Canada can become a global leader in the next generation of aquaculture production. More broadly, we discussed ways we can better support sustainable fisheries. We exchanged ideas about working more closely with Indigenous groups to co-manage our aquatic resources. And we agreed that greater enforcement is needed when it comes to addressing illegal fishing and unreported sales. We also heightened our collective commitment to combating aquatic invasive species which pose a serious threat to our fisheries, ecosystem, and economy. As ministers, we are united in our efforts to prevent the entry, spread, and establishment of aquatic invasive species in Canadian waters. This includes supporting inspections at international and federal border crossings. For species that already have a foothold in our waters, we will continue to work together to detect, respond, and manage and control them to the best of our abilities. As you know, Canadians have high expectations of their elected officials, and rightly so. They are looking to us to provide leadership on provincial, territorial, and national issues that affect their lives and livelihoods. Gatherings such as this one help us build consensus, share knowledge, and propel us forward as we strive to grow a blue economy in ways that are economically prosperous, environmentally sustainable, and socially responsible. I value and appreciate what everyone has brought to the table over the past 2 days, and I look forward to seeing what we will accomplish together in the years ahead. Once again, I'd like to thank Minister David Akeeagok for hosting us in beautiful Iqaluit, sharing the region's rich traditional Inuit culture, and welcoming us with such warm hospitality. Thank you. Merci, kuya namik. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Thompson. Minister Akeeagok, the floor is yours.
Ulukun kuya naming tamangaw na kasi takot tamane katigiyaka Canada limami ikalolagay kunun Ministro katika tamani udlunin pingasun ikati makatigiyom na tiyasun magatta takot adiyeng ito nito ka sa kaksuta kasi yani Canada mi utoluta ataw siyo katigiyakta tabuna sakiyatiyak si maman upigidlugit tamangaw na mata Ministro katika adiyeng ito nila ako daw sa katiluta takot malutong asuk titero tigun Minister Thompson lo tan katimayon isibaw ta katigilaw ako alene surilo amaro pilit tiasuta. Thank you very much for coming here. I'd like to start thanking my minister colleagues from across Canada that are ministers for fisheries as our annual meeting on the Canadian marine fisheries that this was an opportunity for Nunavut to host, and it was an honor to host here along with my colleagues. We built very good, strong relations together, along with the very key items that we have with various task groups that's taken place over the number of years that we continue to work collaboratively, and it allowed us as a host to showcase what Nunavut has done in terms of our co-management systems with fisheries and the variety of all the agenda items that were listed by Minister Thompson. I won't repeat what she says because she covered very well. So I just want to thank everybody and thank my colleagues for coming here. Koyanami.
Nahumich, Minister Akeeagok. Co-chairing Ministers Thompson and Akeeagok will now take questions, first from media in the room and then from media on Zoom. My colleague in Media Relations, Axel Rioux, who is online, will moderate the Zoom portion. Each reporter will have the opportunity to ask one question and, if requested, one follow-up question. When it is your turn, please state your name, outlet, and whether your question is either for Minister Thompson or Minister Akeeagok. For those on Zoom, please display your name and outlet and feel free to ask your question in the language of your choice, as interpretation is available. I'd like to invite the reporters in the room to come to the microphone, please, one by one, and ask your questions.
Good afternoon. Jeff Peltier with Nunavut News here. Minister Akeeagok, I'm curious if you can talk about some of the main Nunavut issues and topics that you brought up over the last few days and what you're hoping to get out of them. And Minister Thompson, if you can also respond to that after.
Yeah. One of the items I'll cover specifically is our co-management system here in Nunavut with the Nunavut Management Board being the board that provides all the input throughout from Inuit to governments and allows for, when it comes to fisheries, for the fisheries minister to make a decision. We use a number of examples on some of the successes that we have had with our land claims, using the land claims as our base to showcase what happens in Nunavut, and as there are a lot of discussions with indigenous groups throughout, and our first day had covered with our two national indigenous groups and had a very good discussions with them in terms of on the fisheries management and fisheries resources. Thank you.
Thank you, and I just want to share that the minister and I were very fortunate to meet informally, I think a week before this meeting in St. John's for the Canada Summer Games, and it really, I think, is very significant of the distance of both of our places. So it shows how important face-to-face meetings are. I'm very pleased to say that within the context of our meetings the last 2 days, we had a significant amount of time for open dialogue, and I want to stress how important that is. There's so much across this country that, that is significant in provinces, some shared, some very regional, but we need opportunities to come together and discuss the issues that are most important, and then collectively and collaboratively find the ways that we can best help each other.
Follow-up? Sure. And the topic of trade negotiations with the United States was mentioned. Minister Akeeagok, how do you see Nunavut playing a role in those topics?
Thank you. As you know, our fisheries, majority of our trade is with Asian countries, and that's also China has put a 25% tariff on our fishes, on our fish and shrimps. This allowed us to have those conversations, not necessarily just on the United States, but also with the Asians, because our fish, majority of our fish throughout Canada is that we ship to Asia, and the rest of it goes to the United States. And those were very informative discussions together in terms of how can we help the fishing industry. Thank you.
Hey there, Will Koblenski-Varela from Nunavut News. Yesterday, the NTI announced its support for a deep-sea port in Iqaluit as a nation-building project. Are you concerned about how more marine traffic in the Davis Strait will affect marine wildlife? That's a question, for both Minister Akeeagok and Minister Thompson.
Thank you. One of the topics that we discussed was on Bill C-5, and that's on the nation building. I identified Iqaluit Port as one of the 4 major ports that we'd like to see here in Nunavut. Personally, in terms of whether more ships will be coming to Davis Strait, this is one that we are, from Nunavut's perspective, we do have fishing industry that Nunavut owns, but none of them land in Nunavut. And this will allow for Nunavut to land their own fish and be able to ship to the markets of their choice. And that's, to me, I see this as a nation building where we'd have 4 ports and allow for our Arctic sovereignty to be what the geopolitical world is at right now. As Canadians, we have to invest from coast to coast to coast. And that's the message that I sent in this meeting.
Thank you. And, I will say we live in historic times, and, the Mark Carney government was elected on the platform of building Canada strong and doing big things in short order. But that doesn't mean that the consultation process is excluded. It is not. We do nothing without Indigenous partners, and also ensuring the regulatory processes happen. We support our oceans, obviously, as the species. We need to have strong fishing economies going into multiple generations, but it means that we have to move more quickly and look at systems that are unnecessarily detailed and really shore up our processes so that we can move quickly, but it's not intended to compromise the future of our oceans. Thank you. Great. So Minister Akeeagok said he supports the deep sea port. What can you say about your government's support for the Iqaluit deep sea port? And again, I'll go back to the historic moment. We need to have access from regions in the country. Part of growing this country, which is expanding our own productivity, is having the points of entry and exit, and this is part of that. But again, I want to stress that things happen with the cooperation of the people in a region. But I mean, this is a generational opportunity for us to expand our productivity within this country.
Thank you.
Are there any other media in the room that would like to, that we didn't get to? Okay. One more question in the room.
Tama kakayunga CBC kutninga tunga David Akeeagok. Emammiute amishu mata Nunavut emakutingini kisiani kasina mata Iqaluit amaru Aquaculture kishu kamagiyo yaga kakpa makipaldangama Iqaluit.
Itana kauyamatiatu Nunavut mit tamakko tulataveri sana yaw sa mga mata dabmani ukaw sa khasiuti si mayawut ta ko tulatavil liwat tulatavil liw jumilutin malo adjing itun kinga ni atun naktahat katamat kamat hakutigut tabuna katimanikut tu sapadlia hatatigu kano piyun nakatigu kya tabuna piyun na tatikan ya juga sokata tabungan Nunavut mo ta ko Iqaluit ng makipalit tinasunyam mo ukaw ta matay nakikitadwa manaw yung Iqaluit yakutiwot Nunavut mo siya gunangin mata tay nasanayaw patay mapivadlot dwa kayakto amalo ta ko asing nunalibot tay man Iqaluit mo pivadlot ko ta kamagaramay mata kanok pilir khatigon na tigukya Kana ukaw sa khasiuti si mamiyaw tamakwa kinawi atoy nakabyo katatoy gam matakakuni sakyak tiyakan ni kadlutigon.
Koyan nami. David, my question is for you. There's a lot of resources in Nunavut waters, but yet few industries and infrastructure. What do you think needs to be done to uplift the industry?
As you know, Nunavut's lack a lot of ports and docks throughout the territory. One of the engagements that we do have is to try and look and advocate to see where we can build on our fisheries industry, and through these dialogues is the right forum, and we advocate as there are some federal dollars that are available to help advance these things, and that's one that we had our dialogue, and something that from a Nunavut's perspective, I'm here to to advocate for that. Kikatadra Port is a fine example because right now our fishing industry are fishing out there, but they're not landing in Nunavut, and it's something that we desperately need here in Nunavut in order for us to diversify our economy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Narumir, thank you. That concludes the questions and answers in the room. I'll now turn it over to my colleague Axel, who is moderating the Q&A for the reporters that are on Zoom. Axel, over to you and to the reporters online.
Thank you, Lauren. So for reporters online, please raise your virtual hand and I will call on you in turn. Also, please state your name and your outlet. I know that we will start by Fabian Dawson, who already indicated interest. He's from C-West News, so I will ask to unmute. Just one moment.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. Good morning, Minister. This question is for Minister Thompson. Over the past couple of years, new studies have reaffirmed what DFO scientists have long said, that well-regulated ocean-based salmon farms in BC only pose minimal risk or less than minimal risk to wild stocks. Given this evidence, will your government consider the 2029 phase-out of open net pens introduced under the Trudeau administration, which threatens thousands of jobs in Indigenous and non-Indigenous coastal communities?
Thank you. So let me begin by saying that the aqua fishery is an important part of the economic growth of the sector, and it is also an important component of food security. That said, I am pleased to share that over the past number of weeks, there's been over 110 engagements with stakeholders, Indigenous peoples, First Nations, any individual or group that wanted to participate in the report that now sits with ISED should be, I believe it will be released very shortly. It's certainly in the final stages, and I look forward to that report.
A follow-up, please. Minister, why proceed, or are you proceeding with the phase-out that is built on activist pressure rather than evidence? And how does that align with Prime Minister Carney's priority of strengthening jobs, improving reconciliation, boosting the nation's food resilience, etc.?
And again, I will echo my earlier comment that the consultation engagement has happened. The report is with ISED, and it will be released shortly. Thank you.
Yes, we will go next to Ridi Kechela from Ill Times.
Hi, thank you so much, Minister, for taking our questions today. My question is for you. Firstly, the Canadian Aquaculture Industry Alliance has called for doubling the funding for Canadian shellfish sanitation program in the light of the impact of MSX and dermo diseases, and offer an insurance program for oyster farmers. I was wondering what your response is to that and tackling the impact of these parasitic diseases.
So I'm certainly pleased to share that this was an important part of our conversations. I will also share that the federal government provided close to $1 million in the last number of months to help towards science so we can understand how we're able to protect the sector. It is significant. I know in the Atlantic region, it is an important part of the seafood sector and an economic impact. So we are working with our partners in the provinces on this, and we'll continue to be there to lead with science to do all that we can to ensure that we have a sustainable industry. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, we will then next go to Barbara Dean Simmons from Undercurrent News. I will ask to unmute. Barbara?
Hi, yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Barbara Dean Simmons calling in from Newfoundland and Labrador for Undercurrent News. Minister Thompson, you spoke of tariffs, and of course we know that the Prime Minister and Mr. Carney have been diligent and working hard to negotiate a trade agreement with the U.S. But in terms of China, I mean, Canadian seafood is really been impacted by those Chinese tariffs. I know the lobster industry in the first half of 2025, we've seen a 32% decline in value of lobster exports to China and a 33% drop in volume. So I'm wondering if you can bring me up to speed on where negotiations sit right now between Canada and China, and what the Canadian government is doing to assist the lobster industry in the meantime in dealing with those tariffs.
Thank you. It's good to have you on the line. I can tell you that the dialogue is open with Chinese officials. The last report I read, it was engagement within the last couple of weeks, so it is ongoing. Part of our conversations in the last couple of days was also on ways that we need to diversify our market, and that work will continue. And I also want to assure lobster fishers and harvesters that we are here, we'll continue to be here to support, and diversifying the markets is a key priority, but at the same time, the dialogue with China is ongoing. Thank you.
Is there a follow-up? Barbara, is there a follow-up?
Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting. Yeah, the follow-up, and it follows the question that was asked by CWest News, and I'm just wondering, in terms of the BC aquaculture, as the new minister, and you stepped into this role with decisions made by previous ministers, and I'm just wondering if you have any appetite for changing the policy on BC salmon farming and doing another review of that proposal to shut down salmon farms, the open net pens, by 2029.
Well, thank you for the question. And, I'm pleased to say that I spent time this summer in BC. Busy days. I met with as many stakeholders as we could, and it was very informative. I want to go back to previous comments that, intensive engagements have happened over the summer on aquaculture. The file does sit with ICED, and they will come out with their report, and then it will move to me. But I am waiting, as many others are, to read that report, and I think our conversations will go from there. Thank you.
We will now go back to Rudy Kicella, who had a follow-up but couldn't ask it. So we'll go back to you. We will ask you to unmute in 1 second. Rudy, are you on?
Yes, I have been able to unmute myself now. Thank you so much. Sorry, I missed the chance earlier. On a slightly different note, Minister, I wanted to get your thoughts on the transition of the Canadian Coast Guard from being under the Fisheries Department to under Minister of Defense. I was wondering if you can give us an update on how that transition is progressing and when can we hear more about it?
Thank you. And I want to begin by acknowledging the work that the Canadian Coast Guard does from coast to coast to coast. It is amazing. And, I've taken an opportunity wherever I have traveled in the last weeks of summer to meet with the Coast Guard staff because they truly are heroes. And I can say when I was doing my tour in Newfoundland and Labrador, while the forest fires were raging, Coast Guard was there to offer support. So the work is incredibly important. And I want to use that as sort of the segue into answering your question. We are in historic times. We need to expand our security and sovereignty within the country, and Coast Guard is prepared to do that alongside D&D, but that does not take away from the work that Coast Guard does in fisheries. That work will continue. This is an all-of-government approach, and I work closely with my colleagues in DFO to ensure that the work of Coast Guard, and I want to reassure Canadians that the work related to fisheries will continue. And, in order to meet this moment, we need to be creative in the work that we do, and really bringing down silos is important, and this is an example of that. Thank you.
That concludes today's press conference. Thank you, everyone. Nakumik.